Hi guys, masterscreed here and welcome back to my channel. In this game, I'm going to show you a game where I played an Indian opening. Now there's many Indian openings, there's the Queen's Indian, King's Indian, but I'm going to speak about a line that Hikaru recommended. Now I used to have a very hard time against 1d4 as black because I didn't really know how to respond to it. My best option usually before used to be the Slav. So those of you familiar, after the Queen's Gambit, you go c6. There's usually other variations. You might play knight f3, but c6, this line though, most of the time leads to a draw, especially when you're playing classical or longer time period games like rapid. Players usually know how to respond to the Slav and it plays itself out, and oftentimes it leads to draws. Now, seeing that there wasn't much headway in terms of getting a really strong position from the opening, one opening that I came across recently, which I really struggled with at first, but I found a very simple system, is the Queen's Indian response. And you can do this against any d4 variation. So after d4, we start with knight f6. Almost in King's Indian territory, d6 here, g6, etc. You're getting into King's Indian. Now, first you go e6, which looks almost like a French setup. And the plan is at some point you go c5, d5, a6, b5, and then eventually c4. So you create some sort of pawn storm from the beginning, and you'll see how that plans out. Knight f3, d5, and you're clamping down on the center early on. Now, a6, this move looks weird right now. We're kind of blocking this bishop still. Eventually, though, we'll play b5, c5, and then c4. c4, sorry. So he goes knight to e4. Now, the moment I see this move, he hasn't developed any pieces. He's only developed the bishop and the knight. So it's a bit too early for him to attack. So even if he does attack, the attack is eventually going to run out of steam and we don't really need to worry about it. Also, the idea, I think, is he's going for bishop g3 and then what's called the Philidor ring, f4. Eventually, the knight could go back to f3 and then he'll have 3 pawns on f4, e3, and d4. And especially the f and d pawns, they'll be clamping down on e5, especially with the reinforcement of the knight when it goes back to f3. Now, that being said, we ignore that plan. We're focused on breaking through with c5, eventually c4. This is another habit you have to get used to. If your opponent has his plans, you try to enforce your own plans. That's the only way you're going to bring about a balance in the game. Okay, knight b d2, or I should just say knight d2. The other knight is on e5. Now we're striking the center with c5, and now the game is getting a bit interesting. He goes c3, just like a Slav response, obviously reinforcing that central square on d4, central pawn on d4. We go b5, still expanding. There is this move which I missed, so I should have gone knight c6 was a threat. Queen c7 is not an option because that walks into bishop f4. So I had a bit of a hard time deciding on this move. But I figured if knight c6, we have queen b6 anyway, and the knight doesn't have any tactics after that, so it's a safe move. Bishop d3, very understandable, just developing. Now I need to explain this move. It seems like it's a non-starter. Don't know how you Americans say that. It seems like a move that doesn't really make sense right now. However, you'll see that in the next 10 moves, it will make sense. Most beginners, they would say, I mean, you're just staring at a pawn. You have to understand x-rays are always dangerous, no matter how many pieces are in between. Okay, so we have h3. This move didn't make sense to me at this point. If, let's say, there was the possibility of bishop g4, then I can see the reason for h3. The only other reason I can see now, I guess, is to prepare some sort of stronghold or pawn storm on g4 with the g and h pawns. Other than that, I don't really see the point of it. I think better move here by our opponent perhaps is probably, I would say queen e2. If c4, you just go bishop c2. And then let's say bishop e7. He can then castles. You can even castle this side. It's fine. Though usually I go queen b6 and castle queen side. So that's the general plan. I would have gone for those moves. H3 very weakening and doesn't really do anything. But anyway, he plays it. Now we hit c4. Notice now this pyramid of pawns is going to be very, very hard for him to break through. So I'm not worried about any quick attacks on the queen side, which is probably a lot safer to castle on. Now, another thing you should notice is that this c pawn is cramping out his pieces. This helps us because it gives us a positional advantage. How so? If his pieces can't develop, that buys us time to then develop our own attack. So I hope that line of thinking makes sense. H6 now, there's a reason to it because we want to restrict or suffocate this bishop by depriving it of less and less dark squares. He goes a3. This move makes sense because it does restrict this bishop from getting any good squares, though that b4 square was already covered by the c4 pawn. So I don't think this made sense. The c4 pawn was already, sorry, the c3 pawn was already covering b4. Now we've developed most of our pieces, as you can see. Bishop is out. We still need to get the queen out and the bishop. So you have to understand in the opening, if you want to have sustainable attacks later on, you have to activate your pieces. So let's just follow basic principles. Queen b6. Let me explain this move quickly. Here the queen on b6 has a lot of scope. It's controlling a lot of squares. And also at the same time, you're not putting it on a dangerous square. You don't want to bring the queen out too early, as you guys probably already know. This is bad as the queen can get trapped very easily and it can become more of a liability than an asset. Okay, queen c2, also very good placement of the queen. You see this in many, many openings. Queen has a lot of scope on the board and is controlling a lot of squares, which could help out later on. Now, bishop d6 makes sense. Last piece that we have to develop. Challenging this knight, which is really annoying because it's controlling a lot of squares. And anytime, especially when you're playing against good players, you have to be very mindful of tactics because his pieces might be lurking on your side of the board. If you fall asleep for even one move, there's a tactic. So anyway, he focuses on attacking on the queen side. This move I hope makes sense. The bishop wasn't doing anything. It's just being controlled by all the squares that it wants are being controlled by our opponent. So we're giving up a good piece. We're giving up a bad piece, which is this bishop, for a really, really strong piece, which was the knight on e5, which is controlling many, many squares. So I hope that part makes sense. Now, after takes, he takes back with a pawn, hitting our knight. We move back to f8 with a plan of rerouting our knight, maybe c6, and then something like a5, b6, a5, b3. So slowly that happens. Now this bishop move was very, very strong, getting his bishop on a very active square, potentially later challenging any pushes by our side. So anyway, he castles queenside. Now this is really important. This is the part of the game where you either win or lose, because if you castle the wrong side, you're toast. I'm noticing all of his pieces are aimed at the king side, and potentially these two pawns can also, along with the help of the rook, maybe this rook on g1, this could cause a lot of problems on the queen side, the king side, sorry. If I look at the queen side, on the other hand, things are very locked up. So obviously after knight c6, here I made a mistake I was supposed to take. I figured you just go for a simulated pawn exchange where you don't take the pawn and you keep his pieces cramped. He goes g6. Now, we want a castle, but we can't be on autopilot. We have to deal with this move, which is a fantastic move by our opponent. What do? Well, we don't take because queen takes and then we're in trouble. Okay, what else do we do? Well, best move here is f6. And after he takes, do not take with a pawn because then this g-pawn comes alive and all of a sudden we're in trouble again. And we're forced to play forcing moves. Capture back with a knight, and the position is still slightly frozen on this side of the board, buying you more time to get an attack on the other side of the board. He plays rook g1, rook hg1, we castle. And now after e4, This is really important. You don't take because that only helps him. He has control of that e4 square, so you're not challenging for the e4 square. You go for what's called the simulated pawn exchange, where you do not take and you push your pawn forward with the hopes of other tactics afterwards. Now he pushes e5, trying to be aggressive, and we play the brilliant move d3. Sorry, yeah, d3. Queen has to move, and the idea is if he takes, we take back. And there's no way this pawn is getting to the end. After rook g8, we're just chilling. And we've won a queen. So, of course, he sees that. I think he's around 1900, 1800. I'm not sure what his rating is now. You guys can check. He's on chess.com. This game was just transferred to another app so I can analyze and show you guys all the ideas. Now, this is really important. We don't want to allow this pawn to transfer onto another file and put further pressure on this. We don't allow this pawn to put further pressure on this g7 pawn. So what we do is we just move the knight away. He takes, we take with the rook. Brings his bishop to hit the queen. We just move our queen to c7. Just like when the queen was on c2 here, controlling all these squares. Our queen on c7 mirrors the exact same geometry. So therefore, it's a very, very good square to put our queen on. Anyway, now we don't want to go after this pawn. That's not the point. Don't lose focus. We want to go after his pieces. Notice, by the way, this bishop, very inactive in the opening. Now it's very active. So anyway, let's see how the game transpired. We then move our queen, trying to get just some sort of activity on this side of the board. We're not worried about these attacks here. We can just take back with the rook and we're fine. Now notice, by the way, our knight is undefended and there's an X-ray on it. So after he takes, it's really important that we take back with the rook. This allows and stops any blunders on this side of the board. Very basic tactics up until now. Now we go for a check. He obviously can't take. This is where we start to apply our dominance. And notice the moment I see the queen on this square, I'm noticing that the bishop can land on e4 with a potential check. So he push. He goes for a fork, which I saw. But it's quite futile to go for this fork because checkmate is imminent in the next move. He takes, and boom, he missed the line of checkmate. So I hope this opening made a lot of sense. There was quite a lot of things to go through, more for the, let's say, club players and advanced players. If you're a beginner, I wouldn't recommend, let's say, starting with this opening. You could use it for some of your games, but it's more important you start with more simpler openings. But if you have understood it, excellent. I tried to make it as simple as possible. You can use it during your games. Anyway, if you enjoyed, guys, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.